Welcome, everybody. My name is Will Kurtis. I'm working again at Channel 2, so my colleagues, don't be scared. I'm going to say a few words of introduction and then sit down and leave it to the veterans. Just to announce, I may be the oldest one in the room to actually remember the 1986 Homecoming Parade, and that's why I was asked to say a few words. It was a time when, I guess, the cathartic experience of being able to talk about the Vietnam War among veterans really began in 1978. Agent Orange, then the wall came, and there was a little more dialogue. It was sort of a precursor to handing around cassettes and videotapes, because 3/4-inch cassettes of Agent Orange were being handed to veterans organizations all around the country, and that's actually how it spread as a story and as kind of a kickoff for veterans saying, hey, wait a minute, we're being blamed for the war, we're being called the baby killers, we can't wear our uniforms into the neighborhoods, but you know something, it's not our fault. And we have some serious problems. And the discussions began and led from one thing to another. And so along comes 1986, June 13th, and there had been quite a bit of preparation, and someone said, was leading the way, well, let's have a homecoming parade. We haven't had one. Nobody's had a homecoming parade. And so I think we were expecting maybe 10,000 people, and all of a sudden, when the staging arrived, there was 10,000, all right, and then down the block and down the street and around the corner, and 300,000 men showed up. And it became the biggest homecoming parade in the United States, and more than a parade, which you will hear about today. It came down to a traveling wall and was such an experience that after 25 years, we all want to do it again. So I welcome you and kind of set the stage there. Walter and I were anchoring on the street, and it was something because everybody, it was one big family, and it was a great feeling to have everybody there. And with that, as one PFC, United States Marine Corps, to another, I'd like to introduce PFC Jim Balcer, who happens to be an alderman.
Thanks, Bill. It's always an honor to be with you, as we were reminiscing about Judge Marovitz at a Marine Corps ceremony some years ago. I'm honored to be here as the alderman of the 11th Ward, home of the White Sox, but more importantly, as I tell people, which I'm most proud of, PFC Balcer, United States Marine Corps, who served in Vietnam from 68 to 69. And let me say that that pride really started with the parade in 1986. My involvement in the veterans community started at that time, and there's one individual, actually two, that I want to mention, and I think Roger will elaborate more on one, our dear friend Tom Stack, who is not here with us and who was the chairman of the parade, and Colonel Ken Plummer, and a host of others, but those two stick out the most. And what the parade meant for me, and I've always said this, I've always been proud that I served in Vietnam. Two other brothers too, Army, and my dear mother who served in the Army in World War II. When I came home, I had my mother. I had a family. My mother would always talk to me about it. She goes, you have to get involved, you have to stay involved with the community, with veterans. And I never really wanted to be involved from 1970 until about 1984. And she kept telling me, she goes, you should get involved with the veterans. I didn't listen until I heard a fellow by the name of Tom Stack speak at chapter 153 of the Vietnam Veterans of America. And he was talking about this parade, and he was going on, and Tom was a very emotional speaker. Tom could raise hell. He was unbelievable. And I looked and I said to somebody, I said, who in the hell is that guy? You know, that's Tom Stack. He's in charge of the 86th parade. We're going to have this great parade. I said, what parade? He goes, the one in downtown Chicago. That lit the fuse. I said to myself, I've got to get involved with this. And my involvement in the parade, and now was in politics, was voter registration. I always believed that veterans should register and vote. And Tom said, good idea, Jim. He goes, you're in charge. And I ran the voter registration for the parade committee. And I found out a lot about the parade, and I learned a lot from that that has helped me in my career. And let me say that I wouldn't be here if it were not for that parade. I would not probably be Alderman Balcer. I would be somewhere else doing something else in life. That parade made me understand about what it meant to be a veteran and to have that pride. You're a Vietnam veteran. This is part of your life. This is a great part of your life. Sure, there's things we look back in Vietnam, we've seen friends die, and we see a lot of other things. However, I've never held my head down in shame. I never once said I hid the fact that I was a Vietnam veteran. I never talked about it. Never once. Never talked about it to friends. Then came the parade. And with the parade, what I learned from Tom Stack is to be all-inclusive. That's something Tom did. This wasn't just about Vietnam. It was about everybody that served. Everyone. And I'm going to bring up a name. I sat here and I thought, Raj, one of the names, one of Tom's grand marshals of the parade, Doughboy Joe Ambrose. Doughboy Joe Ambrose, World War I vet. He was one of the grand marshals. His son had been killed in Korea, I believe. And that's the way Tom was. It was about Korea, it was about Vietnam, it was about World War II, it was about people that served the country. And yes, we honored Vietnam veterans. And let me tell you with pride that I walked from Navy Pier with the 3rd Marine Division going down LaSalle Street. And all the people that were cheering for us and everything. And it just made me feel so much pride inside of myself as a vet. And everyone marching with each other. And some of the issues that were brought up, of course, I learned about Agent Orange. I learned about the POWs and MIAs. I learned all these different things about Vietnam that had happened. And why? Because of that parade. And because of one man's determination to bring that parade, Tom Stack. Tom went to New York. Did you go with him, Raj? They went to New York. Tom came back and said, we can do it in Chicago. We can do it, and we can do it better. And they did. 250,000 marchers? Pretty close. We'll say 250. I'm in politics, so we'll just smooth those numbers out any way you want. It could be 300,000, 400,000. But we all got together, and Tom's vision was that it's for all veterans. It's for everyone to march in this parade and to say thank you to the Vietnam veterans, and also to say thank you to all those other veterans who served our nation. Let me finish by saying again that always been proud to be a Vietnam veteran. Always been proud. Always. Never once. Never once in my life. In fact, I'd get into arguments with people about it, and never regretted it. Never regretted service to this country in the Marine Corps. And my 2 brothers feel the same way. And again, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for people like Tom Stack and Roger and the other guys that put the parade together. And now I'd like to introduce one of the people that really got involved in the parade. I've known him for a number of years. I like to call him a good friend. He's been very helpful. He's on the Veterans Advisory Commission for the City of Chicago. Did I put you on that committee, Roger? Were you on it already? I did. And it's one of my best appointments when I was Director of Veterans. But he exemplifies what is good about veterans and the Vietnam veterans, Mr. Roger McGill. He'll talk about the parade.
Thank you very much, Alderman Balcer. And by the way, you never argue with an alderman either. Especially from Bridgeport. Jim mentioned Tom Stack. I just want to say, I invited Bill Stack and his 2 sisters here today, but they're not here. Tom had a vision, and boy, did Tom have a vision. And like Jim said, when we came back from the parade in New York, we went to the city and said, let us show you what Vietnam veterans are really made about and what we are about, and that's what we did. So 25 years ago, Tom would have said, and I will say, welcome home. We also want to say thank you to the present troops that are serving for us and protecting us. Thank you very much for your service. There were about 176,000 Vietnam veterans that marched in the parade in 1986. They were from Chicago. They were from the suburbs. They were from the state of Illinois, and they were from every state across the country. It was a 3-day event. The Welcome Home Parade was on Friday, June the 13th. That was one of Tom's big things. Let's show them we're not afraid of 13th. And a concert and activities in Grant Park at the band shell, a POW and MIA ceremony and activities at the Daily Civic Center, and various prayer services on Sunday. There were many reunions at various hotels in downtown Chicago that represented the various divisions of the United States Army, battalions of the United States Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard units, and the moving wall, as Bill said, was on Michigan Avenue. And it was there for a whole week. And that was done by volunteers. The volunteer that ran that was another Marine that has since passed and succumbed to Agent Orange. 25 years ago, later, Chuck Lufano, and Chuck is gone, and Chuck's family is here today, all his family, who ran the entertainment at Grant Park at the band shell, wrote a book called In Spite of It All. And at various book signings he held, Vietnam veterans came up to him and said, "Hey, I was there that day, it was great. I have pictures I took that day." Well, this gave Chuck the idea to start a 25-year anniversary of this historic event, and that is where we are today. Planning of the event will take place in June 2011. It'll be 3 days, the 17th, the 18th, and 19th. So far, the weekend will include a week-long Veterans Art Photo Display at the Chicago Cultural Center, sponsored by the Vietnam Arts Museum. A Saturday morning rally at Navy Pier, followed by music provided by Jackie Marks and Britt Small, who were also here and did that same thing during the parade. A Saturday evening banquet, with Bill Kurtis as the Master of Ceremonies. Special guests will include Medal of Honor recipients, and we will be honoring the City of Chicago for their support of veterans and recognizing veterans and honoring them. Australian veterans are going to come. There were 6, Tom had 6 Vietnam veterans from Australia that were here. They are so excited about this event, they're already talking about it. Today, with iPad, with iPhone, with the internet, everybody knows what's going on. The moving wall display all weekend at Navy Pier, an interfaith service by Reverend John Stair. John Stair served with the 173rd Airborne. He lost his arm at Dak To. Veterans, information booths, seminars, unit reunions all weekend long at the Palmer House Hotel. Family discount booklets for restaurants and activities. An all-afternoon concert at Millennium Park featuring Dennis DeYoung. Where's Joe? Joe is right here. Joe is also going to play in the 101st Rock Division. Much more to be added. It took a year of planning for the Welcome Home Parade in '86, and it has taken a year to plan this event for June 2011. We are hoping all Vietnam veterans, their families, friends from Chicago, the suburbs, and the state of Illinois, and around the country that will attend. Thank you. It is my distinct honor to bring up Dan Grant, who is with the Illinois Department of Veterans Affairs. And he's also an Iraqi veteran.